What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? I would like to welcome you all to another edition of Wayne's Perspective, where we operate in discipline, decency, integrity, and respect. And I'm coming through with another video just for you. All right, so if you've been checking out my recent videos, I have been saying that I am going to come back and do some videos regarding what's been going on in my state, specifically with the budget and the General Assembly. So, based on what we're going to talk about today, courtesy of an article from the Washington Post, a government shutdown has been avoided in my state, and looks like they've come to an agreement on some things. And with all that being said, y'all, we're going to go right into the article that's going to do a lot of talking, quite literally. And I'm also going to give my thoughts as well, like I normally do. So, as you can see, this is courtesy of the Washington Post. So we're going to go ahead and get right into it.
This news story was written by Gregory S. Schneider and Laura Vazella. Virginia lawmakers avert budget crisis, approve bipartisan spending plan. Richmond. Weeks of Virginia state budget drama ended Monday with pledges of bipartisan goodwill as the General Assembly passed a compromise 2-year spending plan that boosts funding for education and other priorities without increasing taxes. Votes in both the Senate and the House of Delegates were nearly unanimous.
Okay, so let me stop it right there. Now, credit, I give credit to Governor Glenn Youngkin, and of course, the House of Delegates, which is where I'm going to be in a few years, and the Senate, nearly unanimous, and it boosts funding for education and other priorities without increasing taxes. That's good. A 2-year spending plan, that's good as well. So, I mean, hey, my hat's off to them, even though y'all know I don't wear hats. So this is good news. This is good news for my state, and like I said, Governor Youngkin, I probably don't agree with him on much, but doing this is a good thing for the state. I would rather have this level of cooperation from both sides than to have my state in a government shutdown, which would not be good for anybody. So again, credit to everybody who came through on this one.
Governor Glenn Youngkin, Republican, who had raised the specter of an unprecedented state government shutdown by vowing not to sign the budget the legislature passed in March, rushed Monday to sign the new document after a special one-day legislative budget session. "This is a big day for Virginia," Youngkin said, before putting his pen to a document that aides and legislative clerks had scrambled to get ready for quick enactment. Reaching a deal demonstrates to Virginians that their elected officials, who sometimes find themselves very far apart on policy, can come together and deliver, Youngkin said, surrounded by a bipartisan group of lawmakers from both chambers.
And again, I give credit here, that brief statement right there, you know, reaching a deal demonstrates to Virginians that their elected officials, who sometimes find themselves very far apart on policy, can come together and deliver. Okay, that's a good thing. Now we need to start seeing some things like that in Washington, D.C. But in the meantime, seeing this in my state, and it's a good thing. And I've often said that when it's my time to be a part of this, in the House of Delegates as well as the United States House of Representatives, I'm all for compromising. I'm all for, talking to people who fundamentally I may not agree with them, but when we have the best interest in mind of our constituents and the people, that's what counts. We don't have to have long drawn out fights. We don't have to argue. We can always talk like adults because that's what we are. So again, credit to Youngkin and the bipartisan group of lawmakers who made this happen. I'll give them credit here. And again, I don't want to see my state in a government shutdown. That would not look good for anybody, the governor or otherwise. So again, I credit them for a job well done here. So let's continue on with the article.
This has been a protracted process, but working together with the Senate and the governor, we have developed a product that all parties believe will meet the needs of the Commonwealth. Appropriations Committee Chairman Luke Torian, D. Prince William, said earlier in presenting the budget to the House, "We're excited. We've got a good budget. It's a bipartisan budget. Everyone's on board. A good day." Del Terry Austin, Botator, the most senior Republican on the Appropriations Committee, told reporters. Senator L. Louise Lucas, D. Portsmouth, chairwoman of the Senate Finance and Appropriations Committee, called the deal a win for the citizens of the Commonwealth, while acknowledging the twists and turns required to reach it. This budget contains all of our spending priorities, she said. The budget passed the House 94-6 and cleared the Senate 39-1. The no votes in both chambers were cast by Republicans. The budget includes 3% raises in each of the next 2 years for teachers and state employees, as well as big increases in funding for K-12 schools, higher education, and mental health services.
All right, so those numbers, 94-6, that's a good number right there in terms of, those who voted for it and those who voted against it. And 39-1, I mean, like the article said at the beginning, that's nearly unanimous, and that's good. I mean, I know there's, a Democratic House and a Democratic Senate, but those are still some good numbers here. Now, the raises for teachers and state employees, now I feel that should be 5%, and then in my opinion, teachers should be compensated better than what they're currently getting. 3% is okay, but I think that should be 5% or even 7%, but with all the things that teachers have been dealing with, over the last several years, they deserve to be compensated and then some when it comes to their efforts, and definitely the state employees, you definitely want to make sure they're compensated for what they're doing because they keep things running too. So I don't want to count them out, but definitely the teachers, as now when I think about it, teachers should be getting some type of increase in their pay on a consistent basis, I think, as well as the state employees, and again, that's always a good thing when people are fairly compensated for the work that they do. And speaking of good, big increases in funding for K through 12 schools, that's always a plus. Higher education, that's always a plus. And mental health services, that's a plus too. So this is all good stuff here. And now when I think about it, I want my state to become a leading example of what it means to be on top of mental health services and making sure that people who experience those issues, they get the care that they need. I would like my state to become a leader in that, and definitely when I'm in office, when it's my time, I'm definitely going to support any and all efforts that strengthens that, because it's a big deal, obviously, in our country. So any type of assistance or help or programs that we can get, as well as legislation that I will vote for, that'll make things better in terms of people getting the help that they need when it comes to mental health issues. I'm all for that, y'all. Let's continue.
Those items are all the same as the budget that passed when the regular legislative session wrapped up March 9th. But that budget expanded the state's sales tax to digital downloads, which are currently exempt, and applied it to both consumers and businesses. Youngkin had initially proposed expanding the sales tax to cover digital consumer goods, but he had said he would offset the increase by cutting personal income taxes. The General Assembly nixed the tax cuts, citing $5 billion in tax reductions over the past 2 years, and used the money to pay for other priorities.
Okay, I must have missed that because the last time I talked about this and I had an article going in one of my previous videos, I could have sworn that those tax cuts were going to be part of the budget, but apparently they must have did some negotiations after the fact and nixed the idea. So that's quite a bit of news to me. So let's continue.
Youngkin condemned that plan as backward and vowed not to sign it. With the legislature also rejecting Youngkin's plan for a $2 billion arena in Alexandria for the Washington Wizards and Capitals, lawmakers and the governor seemed mired in bad blood. During an April 17th session to take up the governor's vetoes and amendments to other bills, though, budget negotiators met with Youngkin, and all sides decided to lower the temperature. Chastened by the prospect of damaging Virginia's AAA bond rating, the budget negotiators and governor also saw a way out of their dilemma in the form of surging state revenue. On Monday, lawmakers said they were able to use about $545 million in higher-than-expected state revenue to support funding priorities without having to expand the sales tax to pay for them. An analysis by House Appropriations Committee staff members said current revenue projections could sustain the new higher spending levels through 2030 without raising taxes. But lawmakers have commissioned a study to look at overhauling the state's tax system and plan to take up the issue of tax hikes and cuts at next year's legislative session.
And best believe when that happens, I am going to talk about it on my channel. Best believe that I'm going to be paying attention to that one, y'all.
Despite all the comedy suddenly filling the hallways of the Capitol on Monday, several Democrats were incensed that the new budget retreated from earlier language that put Virginia back into the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, a multi-state cap-and-trade compact for carbon emissions. Youngkin had pushed the state's air board to withdraw Virginia from RGGI, saying utilities pass its costs along to customers as a type of tax. Del Richard C. Rip Sullivan Jr., D. Fairfax, said in a floor speech that removing the RGGI language was a major flaw in an otherwise great budget. Because of the governor's misguided intransigence, it is in one crucial respect, Mr. Speaker, to borrow a phrase, backward. It takes Virginia backward on one of the most important issues of our time, Sullivan said.
I'm definitely going to take an additional look into that a little bit more. The RGGI, I'm going to look at that a little bit more, and I may do a video on it on my channel, but I'm definitely going to review that one.
There were no comparable complaints from Democrats on the floor of the Senate, where the bill passed without much debate. Environmental groups have filed suit, saying the General Assembly passed a law requiring membership in RGGI, and the governor can't undo a law passed by the legislature. That suit is pending. I like our chances, Sullivan said. Several delegates and senators objected to a provision in the budget that reduces higher education benefits for the spouses and children of military veterans killed or severely injured in the line of duty. An existing state program waives their tuition and fees at public colleges and universities.
Okay, I was just looking at that a little bit more. Okay, so let me read that again. Several delegates and senators objected to a provision in the budget that reduces higher education benefits for the spouses and children of military veterans killed or severely injured in the line of duty. An existing state program waives their tuition and fees at public colleges and universities. Okay. Yeah, so I would object to that too. You know, when it comes to spouses and children of military veterans killed or severely injured, yes, I wouldn't reduce those benefits. No, you know, and definitely keep those waivers in place for their tuition and fees at public colleges and public colleges and university. Yeah, definitely keep that in place. Don't make no changes or updates to that. It's working. Keep it that way.
Changes require participants to first apply for other federal aid, such as Pell Grants, and prevent the program from covering graduate programs such as medical school. It also limits the program to Virginia residents. This program is not a handout. It is something that's been sacrificed for in blood and in bodily capabilities, said Senator Bryce E. Reeves, R. Orange.
Okay, now that's coming from a Republican, y'all. So that right there, this program is not a handout. That's a good comment, you know. And again, I'm surprised that that's coming from a Republican because normally Republicans don't talk like that, you know. So, you know, credit to Mr. Reeves on that one, y'all.
Senator Jeremy S. McPike, D. Prince William, who several years ago carried a bill to expand the program, said the changes are needed to rein in a benefit that he said was never intended to cover out-of-state or graduate students. After completing work on the budget, the House and the Senate recessed instead of adjourning, a move that keeps the special session alive and could allow legislators to meet again to vote on skill games legislation. Earlier this year, the General Assembly passed legislation allowing slots-like machines to operate in neighborhood stores, restaurants, and truck stops. Youngkin amended it in a way that essentially maintained the current ban on the games, adding language requiring that the machines be located 35 miles away from casinos and other gambling venues, and about a half-mile from any K-12 school, daycare center, or house of worship. His changes also called for stricter oversight of the games, which would represent a significant expansion of gambling.
Okay, now I have talked about this in previous videos when talking about my state. Now, going to those skill games, now I do support those skill games being in, you know, neighborhood stores and truck stops and stuff like that. Restaurants, maybe. But when it comes to those skill games, you know, or in this case, you know, the slot like machines, I do think that they do have a place in neighborhood stores and truck stops. But let me focus on the neighborhood stores for a minute, because where I stayed, there's quite a few of neighborhood stores that have those based on what I've seen just by driving by, but I also think that there should be an age limit on those. And if there can't be 24-hour surveillance of that, well, no, let me take that back, because I do remember saying in a previous video that there should be 24-hour surveillance on those skill games, and there should be an age requirement. And if you can't have 24-hour surveillance, not sure why they wouldn't be able to do so, then you definitely want to work that in, because you definitely want to have some layer of security in there as well. And I am in favor of a significant expansion of voting in our state, and it's still disappointing to me that the two times that the casino was on the ballot in our state, the constituents voted down. I supported that, and now, even though this is my hometown, it looks like, surprising to me, that Petersburg is going to get a casino before Richmond does. I know we have the Roses Casino in Richmond, which is about 10-15 minutes away from where I stay at, but we could use something, bigger than that to, you know, not just work for the economy and stuff like that, but again, expand gambling in the state. I don't have no problem with that, and with the revenue and the jobs and stuff like that, it would have done a lot of good in my state, So, and let me know what y'all think of that. Let me know where y'all stand on the skill games. Do you agree with these things here, basically the current ban on games, and do you agree with what Youngkin has to say about the amendments and all of that? Do you agree with, or should I say, would you like to see an expansion of gambling in the state? Let me know where you stand on that. Let's
The
continue.
legislature rejected those changes when it convened April 17th to consider his amendments and vetoes, sending the original bill back to the governor. Youngkin has until Friday to sign it, allow it to become law without his signature, or veto it.
Okay, now I can say with certainty that I am going to come back and do a video about that, depending on which way the governor goes. But if I had to take a guess on that, my guess is that he's going to veto it. I don't think he's going to sign it into law, and I don't think he's going to allow it to become law. I think he's going to veto that, but we shall see. But like I said, I'm going to do a video on that.
We have an opportunity to continue the conversation on that bill, House Speaker Don L. Scott Jr., D. Portsmouth, said Monday afternoon. With the General Assembly technically still in session, committees can get together forthwith, Scott said, and try to make changes that Youngkin might support. After he signed the budget bills, Youngkin told reporters that he is interested in trying to resolve the skill games legislation, particularly the issues related to banning the machines at certain distances from other casinos and gambling venues. I have been clear that I was willing to do that, he said.
All right. So with that being said, again, much credit to my state. Those are some good things. That bipartisan spending plan was very good for the state. No reason that we should have avoided this and went towards a government shutdown, which would not be good for anyone. So with all of the changes and updates that it's going to bring, I appreciate all of the work that everyone has done. That includes Governor Youngkin and, the House and the Senate. So, my hat's off to them, even though I don't wear hats. But, mad props to that. My state is getting things done. And I like that, And like I said before, I probably don't agree with Governor Youngkin on much, but when his tenure is over, I'll probably have somewhat of a favorable look at it. And who knows, I might do an extended video regarding his tenure, because when he came into office, I was not happy. But, outside of a few issues here and there, he hasn't been a stain on our state. He's no Brian Kemp. He's no Ron DeSantis. He's no what's the Texas governor name? Man, I can't think of his name right off the top of my head, but y'all know who I'm talking about. As a matter of fact, let me get his name right quick. One second. I know his name. Greg Abbott. Yeah, that's his name, So yeah. So like I said, props to everyone who did their thing here. And we'll definitely come back to this one and see what they do in terms of the skill games and any other legislation that's coming up. So, all right. So with that being said, now I was going to do this as a separate video because there's another thing that's happening in my state. Now this involves the city council. I was going to do it as a separate video, but you know what? In real time, I'm going to include this here. I'll just change the title of the video when I'm done. So let me bring this up, y'all. Just give me 1 second. And in the meantime, if you're in the 804 or if you're in Virginia in general, let me know what you thought about the article that I just read. Well, the article that was read to me and to y'all. But let me know what you think about those, you know, the legislation, you know, the bipartisan agreement. Let me know what y'all think. All right. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and bring up this particular article. Just give me one second. And on the side note, I think my wireless mouse is in need of some new batteries because it's pausing every now and then. I don't like that, but what can you do? All right, so here we go. All right, let's see. And this is probably my first time talking about something regarding the city council on my channel, but I read this today and I thought it would be, you know, something to include on my channel. So we'll go ahead and get there. You know, look at these. I'll tell you one thing: the Richmond Times-Dispatch need to do something with their site because there's mad ads and all that stuff. I get it, but you know, the ads can be like out of control at times. Y'all see this right here? But okay, so let me go ahead and get into this one here. And as the title, Richmond City Council votes to fully fund RPS budget, postpone Coliseum demo, short for demolition.
This audio presentation is brought to you by Hearing Concepts. The City of Richmond plans to fully fund Richmond Public Schools this fiscal year. However, it will hold off on any Richmond Coliseum demolition efforts in an effort to meet budget shortfalls.
Okay, now let me stop it early. Now, I think I've talked about this before, but another thing that I was looking forward to in Richmond was they had some plans to not just replace the Richmond Coliseum, but they were going to have like an elaborate plan, like that would have had like an arena and I want to say a shopping center or something like that, you know, some hotels and all these things. They had like a real plan to do that, but the city council voted it down. And I'm still, you know, like kind of puzzled as to why they would vote that down. Either the city council voted it down or it was placed on the ballot and the voters rejected it, you know. And since then, it hasn't been put back on there. I hope it does because when they do demolish that Richmond Coliseum, which has been over there for decades and it's been closed for a couple of years now, I've been there quite a few times. I just hope that something else is put in its place, but I would not be surprised if they have that just like a big gap there and it just be open for you know for the next few years, you know, because Richmond, with this being the capital city, Richmond, we need, you know, like an arena that'll, you know, be better than the Richmond Coliseum and then some. We need something because with all due respect, you know, the people shouldn't have to travel all the way to Hampton, all the way to Virginia Beach or to DC or to Maryland. You know, traveling is good, but you know, when it comes to Virginia, you want to have the capital city have something in place, you know, it doesn't have to be like the Coliseum. It can be something way better. And you know, it would be good to have something in that spot instead of just a big empty space, you know. But I think that's probably what's going to happen, you know. And as far as that plan, that elaborate plan that I was talking about, I don't think it's going to come back up, you know. But that's crazy because that plan, it would have done some wonders. And as a matter of fact, when this article is done, I'm going to go find that plan and share it with y'all. I'm probably not going to read the entire article. I'm just going to read what was in the plan. So I'm definitely going to do that towards the end. Thanks for sticking with
The
me.
decisions come after a unanimous city council vote to approve Mayor LeVar Stoney's proposed $2.9 billion budget, the largest amount to date, which focuses on city employee raises, school funding, road paving, and poverty mitigation.
Okay, now again, shout out to Mayor Stoney. Shout out to the city council. You know, the $2.9 billion budget, the largest amount to date. That's good. So anything that focuses on, like the article says here, city employee raises, that's a plus in my book. School funding, that's a plus in my book. Poverty mitigation, yes, that's a definite plus in my book, especially when I consider the area. And yes, road paving, yes. For somebody who drives to work on a daily basis, yes, we could do some extensive road paving in all of these areas. You know, definitely get the potholes up out of here. You know, now that's going to be a little convenient when we start dealing with detours and stuff like that. But hey, I have no problem with that if it means that the roads are going to get better and better. And, you know, not just for the main roads, but we're talking about the residential areas and stuff like that, you know, areas that people travel on a day-to-day basis, you know. So again, good on the city council here and good on the mayor.
The newly approved budget includes 25 funding changes as well as several new amendments. These changes will largely impact public school funding. The
No
school
problem.
board approved a $535 million budget, with $247 million of that total suggested to come from the city budget. But Stoney's proposal only allowed for $237 million. After numerous RPS employees and students came forward to demand the city fully fund its schools, the council went back to the drawing board to see where reallocations could be made.
And that's where listening to your constituents, in this case, the employees and students, that's where listening comes into play. So, you know, I'm okay with
The
that.
result, a $17.6 million increase in school funding, nearly $8 million more than what the school board had requested from the city. This includes $2 million directly into the school's general operating budget, with funds pulled from the Economic Development Authority, Citizen Services, and Reserve Council funds. Additionally, the council has pulled $2.5 million of the estimated $3.5 million cost to demolish and secure the now defunct Richmond Coliseum. These funds, coupled with an additional $10 million amendment and a found $5 million in unspent funds, will go toward school-related projects like efforts to reduce gun violence and out-of-school programming. The
Okay.
late-stage budget amendment saw strong support from Richmonders who came forward to address the council one last time before a decision was made. Just a quick word from our sponsor.
For more than a decade, Hearing Concepts
Pardon
has
me,
been
y'all.
dedicated to enhancing the auditory experience for our patients. As a locally owned practice, we provide comprehensive hearing healthcare services to the Glen Allen community.
I am pleased with the amendments that have been made to fully fund the RPS, said Ann Forrester, Vice President of the Richmond Education Association. I want to be clear, though, that this is just the beginning. The conditions in our schools are not new to this year.
That's true.
The decision to add school funding to the budget came with a disclaimer. However, as council members reiterated the fact that they do not have any authority over how the schools allocate those funds. While the city is willing to meet the school's needs and demands, it
That's a
needs
key
to see
point.
those funds put to good use, said Councilmember Stephanie Lynch, who represents the 5th District. The approved budget will see the city's general fund rise to roughly $1 billion, a 5% increase from the previous year's budget and the first time the fund has topped the $1 billion mark. There
That's a
are
hell
no
of a
proposed
budget.
changes to real estate or personal property tax rates, which will remain at $1.20 per $100 of assessed real estate value and $3.70 per $100 of assessed personal property value. But Richmonders will see an increase of up to 4% in their utility rates. The previous year saw those rates rise by 9%. City employees will receive a 4% pay increase and be guaranteed a $20 minimum wage. $9.1 million will be allocated for police, firefighter, and emergency services raises. Stoney first presented his 8th and final budget in mid-March. It will go into effect on July 1st and run through June 30th, 2025. Please know that we hear you because our kids count, our kids are important, and we work diligently to meet the financial demand, said Councilmember Cynthia Newbeal, who represents the 7th District. This audio presentation is brought to you by Hearing Concepts.
Hold on. Okay, there we go.
Next 12 hours, 2 p.m.,
Hold
67.
on. Okay, all right. Okay, so yeah, this is kind of hints at some of the same things from the Washington Post article, but it's all good, you know. So now I'm pretty sure people are going to speak about any type of increase in the utility rates. So I expect that, and if that happens, I'll talk about that on my channel. But yeah, so again, my state, you know, and you know, by way of my city of Richmond, you know, doing some big things. So again, you know, I applaud these changes, these updates. I have no problem with that at all. So now LeVar Stoney, this is his last year in office. He did recently withdraw from the governor's race, and I think he said he's gonna focus his efforts at becoming a lieutenant governor. I think that's what he said. But other than that, unanimous vote here on the city council's end with this $2.9 billion budget. And then this, let me go back to it. That city's general fund rise to roughly $1 billion. That's a hell of a budget right there, y'all. So again, shout out to the legislators and the councilmen and women in my state for getting things done. I like that. I like that type of progress. Now, before I close this, let me go and try to find that in real time, that plan. I'm going to try to find this, y'all. Just bear with me because I want to show y'all exactly what I'm talking about. Let me see. Let me see if I can find something right quick. Give me 1 second. And if you're still listening, I appreciate it. Okay, and see, I'm looking at some right here. I'm on LeVar Stoney's Wikipedia page, and see, it says right here, casino project. Mayor Stoney backed the proposal to build the Richmond Grand Resort and Casino, with the developers spending nearly $10 million on the campaign. The proposal would have brought about 1,300 jobs to the city, along with the $562 million casino. The development was voted on in 2021, but was narrowly rejected by the electorate. The same proposal was also featured on the 2023 referendum ballot, but the voters of Richmond rejected the proposal with a difference of 15,000 votes between those opposed and supportive of the casino development. Yeah, that's what happened. Okay, so I'm just trying to find the article that talked about those plans. Let me see. Let me do something else. Let me see. Let's see. I'm going to find it. Hold on. I think I might have found something, y'all. Let's see. All right, here we go. Yep, I found something. So I'm going to go ahead and get my screen share right quick, y'all. All right, here we go. All right, so you see this right here. Stoney unveils $1.5 billion Coliseum redevelopment proposal. City Council readies for review. And this was back in 2019, August 5th. Okay, see, that's the Richmond Coliseum, y'all. Like I said, I've been there quite a few times, so yeah. So, man, it's going to be different. It's going to be different without that being there. I mean, I know it's been closed for years, but I mean, that was I don't want to say a staple of Richmond, but it's familiar to those who know the area, and those who've been there more than once. All right, so let me get to what was going to be in this plan. Okay, here we go. Right here. The plans call for a 17,500 seat arena, the largest in the state, a high-rise hotel with at least 525 rooms, 2,500 apartments, with 480 reserved for people earning less than the region's median income of about $83,000 for a family of four, 1 million square feet of commercial and office space, 260,000 square feet of retail and restaurant space, renovation of the historic Blues Armory, a new transfer plaza for GRTC bus riders, and infrastructure improvements to make it easier for pedestrians and cyclists to navigate the area. Man, I mean, oh my goodness. I still like that plan, y'all. I still like that. And And like I said, I think what happened was the either the city council voted it down, or it was placed on the ballot and the electorate rejected it. And I want to say it was the latter. I don't think the city council voted it down. But man, we need a redevelopment plan like that in terms of bringing something like that to the Richmond area. Because like I said, this is the capital city. We need something like that. And instead of that area where the Richmond Coliseum is, when it gets demolished, I mean, is it just going to be a big gap there with nothing? So man, they gotta revive that plan. And I definitely would be in favor of that. I would definitely, if I was on the city council, I would vote for it. Definitely, when I'm in the House of Delegates, if something like that came up again and it was in our branch of government, would I support it? Definitely, because I mean, it will bring, man, it'll give a new look to that area instead of it just being a big space with nothing, So, so yeah, man, that's what's going on in our state. So, if you live in the 804, if you live in Richmond, let me know your thoughts on all of this. Everything that I just covered. And again, this was going to be 2 videos, but I kind of pulled an impromptu move and brought that city council article in as well. So with that being said, y'all, this is the end of what's going on in my state. And anytime there's something notable that's going on, I'm gonna come up here to talk about it with y'all. So with that being said, if you like what you heard and you're ready to become part of Team Discipline, go ahead and hit that like button and drop some comments if you're feeling the content, and let me know about what's going on in my state, especially if you reside in my state of Virginia. And last but not least, hit that subscribe button along with the bell so you're notified when I drop new videos. And until next time, my people, take care of yourselves and remember, the power of the mind is valuable.